Yeah, talk about love, people. We're talking about love and many other things today and every Saturday on Live from the Heartland. Welcome to it, and welcome Michael and Thomas.
Good morning, Katie.
Hey, Kate, good to have you back.
Thanks for holding down the fort last week with the governor candidate, Dan Biss.
I had a great time without you two, but
Yeah, we love your honesty, Michael. Thank you for that. And we love you too. So yeah, we have great guests today. We have Yale Strom, who is the director and creator of an incredible movie called American Socialist, The Life and Times of Eugene Debs. So stay tuned for that. We also have Clifton Pierce telling us about the Artie Blues Boy White Foundation benefit. Lynn, you gotta give me some help with these titles. No, just kidding. And our first guest will be our own dear Kathleen Rose Dillion, Loyola ACE counselor and political activist from the neighborhood. First, we'll start with a little back and forth here with the guys. I will admit that I took a job with a campaign, so I want to
Getting right into it there, Katie.
Well, I want to shout out to the brown bag progressives out in Arlington Heights, who I went back and visited this week. An incredible room full of mostly retirees, but not only, who I got to know 4 years ago when I was working my tail off for a governor that didn't get reelected. But those gals and guys sat there, wrote postcards. They had like about 6 items of activism that they were in the middle of or launching, or just a constant stream of activity by these people who were, you know, early brave Democrats in a very Republican sea out there, and they've made a difference, and I just love them. And some of them might be listening online. So.
Well, we know what you're going to do for this primary coming up in 3 weeks, but I was curious to find out from others, starting with the host of this wonderful Gab Fest every Saturday morning. Michael, what are you doing?
well, everywhere I go, you know, I'm wearing a button for the candidates that I like, and I'm talking about them. I've, you know, there's a lot of discussion around Daniel Biss because I'm up at the Evanston Y, so there's a lot of support, but also some unique questions. And in the neighborhood, I'm pretty much doing the same thing, and online I'm posting the interview we did last week with Daniel Biss, and I'm trying to share a lot of stuff.
You also were at the L station yesterday, weren't you?
Just briefly passing out some information about a Monday night gathering at the Heartland Bar at 7006 Glenwood, and it is a Network 49 event to get people to know about who's running and where they stand and why we in Network 49, which is a group some of us belong to here, are for certain people.
So, but you also neglected to mention you've got signs in your front yard.
I got signs, you bet. I got signs.
It's
I got
great
Black Lives Matters, I got Biss, I got Network 49, I've got Cahey.
And I'm waiting for my Biss sign to arrive, and I'll have a nice trio on my front lawn.
Michael,
So far my neighbors are okay about this, but I am beginning to get the, so Tom, how do I figure out who to vote for in the AG race, which has 8 people running, and I have my old favorite, Network 49 straw poll suggested Aaron Goldstein, who's kind of stuck at 3%, and Sharon Farley, who got the Tribune endorsement this week, who I admit I'm sort of moving over to, is also sort of stuck at 3 or 4%.
Who are you moving over to?
Sharon
Fairley. And you know, Pat Quinn, that name recognition thing in a field where no one knows the other candidates, may be emerging as our next Attorney General. I wish him the best. It's not my top choice. I think Pat's done good work and should retire, to be honest. But that's the way it is right now.
Kwame Raoul will be a close second to Pat Quinn. So,
and Aaron Goldstein is not going to be on the top?
He's not going to be in the running. You know, it's 8 people. It's a deep field, and
we've had a number of them on the show.
We have indeed. We're happy.
We like them all.
I want to go back to the top of the ticket because I think it's really tightened.
Yeah,
right?
that would be good.
Yes, it has tightened, and I think everybody should be voting for Biss. I'm sorry. Yep. This is what a primary is for, people. Let me just preach a bit. A primary is for picking the best that you've got in front of you, hoping that they make it.
Not the one that everyone's comfortable with, or will be safe, or, you know, will get along with everybody because he's already paid everybody off.
Like I said, the best. And then, you know, if that best person doesn't come out after at the end of March 20th day, then you put a clothespin on your nose and you vote for the one that does get through to beat to turn over the Republican governors.
One of the things that I shared on Facebook was that progressives shouldn't split their vote. They really, Biss has a better chance right now of beating J.B. Pritzker. And as much as Kennedy might be an interesting guy, he hasn't been around that much. And I'm just encouraging people, including some big-name progressives in town, to switch over to Biss.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to have trouble.
I want to. What's really important is that people don't ignore this primary and show up and vote, and you can start doing that this week. You don't have to wait till March 20th, though. If you wait until then, please join us for a neat party. Network 49 is having a membership meeting and party on March 21st at the Heartland Bar. That address again is 7006 North Glenwood. Come by around 7 o'clock and enjoy the post-primary debate and discussion that we'll have.
So that will repeat before you, a couple more chances. But we had really great actively participated in community meetings this week in our neighborhood. One was the education forum about school funding, which I guess you said CAN TV will be posting.
We will get the news out when CAN TV posts the times for that in the coming week. Ralph Martiri again did his budget miracle in explaining stuff. And school funding, we have a new formula, but we don't have the money set yet. It's going to be a battle every year, and he laid out the groundwork for the hard work that needs to be done in that going forward.
Yeah, a guy like him is so important. He has stuck to that issue for decades, and he's one of the most informed on it. Wish we had more of them, but I'm glad that the Education Committee brought him to the neighborhood. We also, I took part in the Alderman's Forum on the condo development. Actually, it's a townhome development. A block from my house, and it was probably 80 people there. It was huge, and mostly neighbors. A lot of kind of ticked off neighbors because the proposed item is taking the place of a 2-flat that had front and backyard and side yards, and the people on either side, which are in buildings larger than a 2-flat, are looking at having a building about 6 feet away from their wall on either side, and light cutoff and air movement, all that sort of thing. Pretty good concerns.
5 units at $450,000 each, not the whole thing, each.
Right. Now, I have no problem on its own with this development. It looked like a lot of thought went into it, and it's lovely, and there's parking for each unit underneath and all that. It requires, however, and this is why the alderman had the meeting, tons of zoning changes and waivers, whatever. But it's also not in the right place. You do need air and light circulating. And one of the things that I actually said, and I believe, is this the start in Rogers Park of every single spare lot being filled with overpriced and
I could build a whole lot of buildings on my lot.
I know, and it's a tricky thing, and we can't.
And I have a neighbor who wants to do that.
I know. Not on the air, Michael.
I'm not doing it.
Okay.
I'm sticking with a house.
Anyway, excellent conversation with the community. One of the things that I've always loved about Rogers Park is those kind of conversations. So I applaud the alderman for holding that meeting. I wonder what the result will be.
You want to take some bets?
No, not at the moment, but I think we better move on because...
I want to remind people that another way to become engaged, another important municipal election is for local school council. Yes. They've just extended the deadline for those who might be interested in putting their hat in the ring to March 9th. You can go to the neighborhoodfirst.org to get more information, or on Facebook at Local School Council Elections 2018. Everything you'd want to know to be a candidate or support another candidate is there. March 9th is the deadline.
Yeah.
One more candidate is Cam Davis, who is running as a write-in candidate for the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, and he will be a guest.
Well done, Michael.
Well, thank you. And he will, I'm tripping over my tongue, and he will be a guest on our show next week.
Yeah, real glad about that.
He's
Tune
quite a
in.
guy, we're told, and a lot of people are encouraged about his candidacy to fill a seat that is vacated by someone dying. And pay attention, Cam Davis, don't forget to write him in.
So one of the things we wanted to do this morning as we approached the primary was to get a sense of what other people might be looking at going to this primary. We couldn't think of a better organizer, activist, college counselor to bring in on it, but our own Kathleen Rose Dillion. So welcome to Live from the Heartland, Kathleen.
Oh, thank you.
Is this the first time you've been on the show?
It is.
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's great.
I
That's
know, exciting.
Yeah.
So I want to use you as a kind of a microscope into different parts of the voting electorate. What are college students, particularly those from Chicago who go to Loyola, do you hear them talking about this primary? Are they at all engaged in what might be happening with these local elections from the governor through the water reclamation district? Or are
Well,
they too busy with spring break?
you know, I wouldn't say that they're too busy with spring break, but something that I've noticed in my time working as a college counselor across the country, but here in Chicago, we're talking about specifically, is that there's a lack of civic education on these issues, and that students don't grow up knowing when elections are taking place and who's running, what the offices represent, and how these offices and the politicians within them, how their decisions affect their lives. Those are things that just aren't really well known. So recently I taught a workshop on March primary preparation to my students, and we went through the down ballot and we looked at the various offices. I asked them, well, what do you know about this? How does the governor affect your lives? What decisions could the governor make to better your lives?
Good question.
Did
they know?
They knew a little bit, but they said that they had never really been asked those questions before.
Right.
Ever.
Right. It's really pertinent and scary how little civics education is out there, and we're talking some of the luckiest people on the planet, college students in America. They should know.
So why did you get involved with politics? You're about 10 years out of college, and we know you to be very involved with neighborhood stuff right now. Reclaim Chicago Network 49, First Mondays at the Heartland. Why did you get that sort of nudge to try to engage in the political sphere?
Well, I moved here from Michigan, and while I was in Michigan, I had volunteered for a state representative, a candidate who was big into green energy, anti-fracking. That was something I was really engaged in. But when I moved here to Chicago, it was right when Chewy was running for mayor. I found myself getting engaged in that, learning more about progressive Chicago politics. And then when Bernie Sanders was running, I happened to be an adjunct professor and serving at the Heartland, and the owner at the time asked me to take on the political organizing, and I found myself running phone banks, canvases, get out the vote for Bernie Sanders, and I met a lot of great people, all three of you included, in the neighborhood through that, and I just kept going, and here I am.
And here you are. The rest is history.
Do you foresee yourself ever running for office?
I would. I do.
See
President, vice president, what are you looking
Jeez,
for?
Michael.
Jeez, Michael.
She's
you
going
guys-
to take over northern Michigan, actually, is her life plan right now. So.
Michigan needs some
Michigan could use some progressive candidates. Yes, it could.
big time. I know there are
Feel more
a
comfortable in
few.
Chicago.
I know there are a few, but there's some pretty important races in Michigan right now.
Like governor?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and some other one. Well, anyway.
Give us about 10 seconds on that. Who's running for governor? The Democrats have a chance in Michigan.
The Democrats do have a chance in Michigan. Frankly, I am forgetting the name of the gubernatorial candidate in Michigan.
That's okay.
Yeah,
It was a gotcha question
A
that
gotcha
Michael
question.
didn't mean to.
How much
I'm
does your
curious.
CCA pass cost?
I'm still using my UPass. That's going to run out, though, eventually. I'm no longer a student.
So this has been a year where Me Too has become a catchphrase and has kind of launched a movement around disclosing sexual harassment and other issues women face. with a lot more women running for office, is that something that you're paying attention to? Do you think this is going to be the year of the woman?
You mean another one of them? Years of the woman? Yeah.
Well, I am really paying attention to this. I think it's about time that sexual assault and toxic masculinity are brought into the light. These are issues that have affected me personally and have affected almost every woman I ever talked to.
Try and find a woman who it hasn't affected.
Exactly. And now, that's the thing. Now that this has been brought into the light, it is comforting and shocking how many women I speak to who say, me too. I mean, not shocking, right? It's not shocking. We know this has been going on.
Right, right.
But
this,
it's going to stop now.
It's
going to stop.
You know, the same impulse that gave rise to the anti-political correctness mind that is behind Trump and a lot of his supporters will have backlash effect on this as well. I mean, you're going to watch it because no one has ever checked the male toxicity the way this one could.
Yes.
This particular raising of the issue could. Yeah, Michael.
Well, I'm just thinking about it. This is really quite exciting what's going on around it. And I was watching the news yesterday, and the U.S. Forest Service.
Yeah.
There's a rebellion in there. Not a rebellion, but just women speaking out about
that's
a
great.
long history of toxic masculinity
Plus
within the Forest Service.
And
it's everywhere.
And
It's
those
going
that
on.
raised it immediately started getting
Hate mail and death threats.
and reprisals even from their co-workers. So this is what I'm saying. Women are. It's great that they're being saying it, but women and their good male friends have got to look out for each other.
Yeah, and as it goes from like Hollywood and the higher echelons and professional women speaking out,
Right.
it's going to erupt among the masses of women and working class women. You can see the women at Ford.
Let's get back to Kathleen. And what is ACE?
Okay, so ACE is the name of the program I work for at Loyola. It's Achieving College Excellence. It's a TRIO Student Support Services program. TRIO is a grant-funded program, came right out of the Civil Rights Movement, President Johnson's War on Poverty. It's a grant-funded program for students with high financial need, first in their family to go to college, or students with disabilities. These particular programs are under attack right now, with Betsy DeVos being in the Department of Education.
Michigan.
Yeah, right. I know all about her. And we, in Michigan, those of us who are progressives from Michigan, have known about the toxicity of the DeVos family for a long time. I'm going to Washington, D.C. in about a week here to lobby for TRIO funding. We're really blessed in our area to have Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky in our TRIO caucus. Senator Tammy Duckworth is supportive, but there are a lot of other states that need to hear from us and hear the stories of our students, to hear how this intensive mentorship and personalized academic counseling and holistic advising really help
You're building
make
for
waves.
Success. You're building for success.
Absolutely, and we have personal relationships with our students, so it's not transactional, and that's why it works.
I don't know why the president couldn't be behind it four square. He's for success, right?
We do have bipartisan support for TRIO, and we always have.
Well, it depends on what day of the week whether or not the president would be for it. But
That's true.
yeah,
I'm curious what your reaction is to what I feel is a shift in the national conversation around gun safety, led by students after the latest massacre. We've had many massacres for years and years on end, and yet right now the conversation seems to have shifted, even with the president throwing away due process to take away guns. I didn't realize Barack had come back into play this week, but anyway. Because, of course, for 8 years, Barack was taking away everyone's guns, and that's why he needed to be impeached. But now, the flavor of the day, at least, has the current sitting president saying, well, maybe there are too many guns out there. Not that he quite said that, but do you sense a change for someone who's grown up in an era where you weren't doing duck and cover drills to avoid nuclear attack like I was growing up, but rather clear and present immediate danger from too many guns in your neighborhood?
You know, I guess what I'd like to say is that I feel very hopeful when I see young students organizing on this issue. When I see high school students calling out BS, demanding that their representatives defend and protect their lives and put them ahead of profit.
Yeah.
I'm very hopeful when I see those organizers doing that. However, I'm also aware that the students at that particular Florida high school got a lot of funding, right? For civic education, for arts, for speech. They were well poised to take a position on this issue, and it just reminds me that we need to really work to infuse that sort of funding and holistic education into all of our public education.
So, what do you want to do when you grow up, honey? Oh.
Gee whiz,
I already asked her. She's going to run
Good
for
question.
office.
She's going to run for president, according to you. No.
According to Michael.
Right.
Do you want to? I'd like to ask a question.
Sure,
There's
go
some
ahead.
stuff that came down on the Loyola campus around the basketballs. Apparently, some people were supposedly scalping tickets. They happened to be African American. So the police were a little rough on them, the campus police, and a number of students kind of got involved, saying what's going on, and they got roughed up big time.
Right.
There's a long sort of history of questioning the Loyola police and how they treat non-whites. Can you speak to that at all as a member of the faculty?
Or is it too touchy?
Yeah.
It's okay if you can't.
I'll speak to it.
Good.
So there were students protesting peacefully on campus for a non-related issue during this game. Two of those students of color, stepped in when they saw an individual, the scalper, being roughed up.
Because Loyola's got a hot basketball team right now.
They do. So these students, unnecessary and undue unjust force was used on these two students who stepped in. And similarly to what I said about the high school students in Florida and other student organizers I've been seeing, I've been really impressed to see how the Loyola student body has organized in light of this issue. They held a walkout on Wednesday. Students wore black, allies wore black, and they walked out of class. And then the following day, they hosted a town hall meeting where students for reproductive justice, students for freedom in Palestine, ISO, Young Democratic Socialists, just to name a few, Undocumented and Proud, they held a panel where they spoke. They gave statements, they wrote up demands for the president, and then they allowed other students to speak on the issue. And then yesterday, they walked out again and marched to the president's office with their demands. And
how's the institution responding so far?
a statement was put out. It's still developing. Spring break is now upon us, so I'm interested to see the response. But my focus is mostly on the students and supporting them.
Stay
real
tuned.
cool.
We'll have more on
Stay
this
tuned.
one.
We'll keep up with that.
So for people who say that money has totally corrupted politics and my vote doesn't count, what do you tell them going into this March primary?
Get involved in the March primary. That's the exact answer to that issue. For example, Fritz Kagi, Cook County Assessor's race, if we get a good progressive assessor in office, property values will be assessed correctly. There's more public education funding then. If you're disheartened by the political system because of the corruption, local politics is where you can make a big difference.
Oh, but I couldn't have said it better.
Kathleen
Very
Rose
nice.
Dillon, perfect ending to getting people ready for the primary, and we really appreciate your joining us. Kathleen is a counselor and mentor of students at Loyola, but also very active in the Rogers Park community.
This will not be the last time you're on this show.
Thank you so much for joining us.
All right.